to create, how Goran still hits some big shots. He said you guys are basically positionless at this point. But what is it that you love so much about having the ball in your hands late, the way that you were able to impact the game late tonight?
I just think it's the way that we work on that every day in practice, and we've been working on it all year long. We've got comfortable with Goran having it, with Bam having it, T-Hero having the ball, and myself. So I think we're all comfortable in that position, and we like whatever we get out of that.
And just to follow up on that, to your point, you're saying that the ball can be in any number of guys' hands. Where is the confidence level of this team right now?
It's high. We believe in one another. We know what we're capable of, and I think that's the part that's so fun when we're out there hooping. We get down at times, but we never hang our heads because we know if we play the right way, we give ourselves a chance to win. So with these group of guys, man, it's always smiles out there on the court.
Jeff Zilkin.
Goran, Bam, Jay, Tyler, DJ came in and played some big minutes. We just never gave up. We started guarding the way that we're capable of. Rebounding the basketball always helps to make shots, don't get me wrong. But I think all in all, we didn't give up.
Dan Wakey.
I see you.
You guys are down 17 at the point. I think it's a 4-0 run in the last minute. But it seemed like that was a big stretch for you guys to get 3 or 4 stops. Did you feel like that little tiny stretch just settled things down a little bit?
Definitely. They got a lot of guys that can put the ball in the basket and get into that paint, and then you spraying it out to their shooters. I think we just finally decided to make multiple efforts, get our body in front of them, and then close out. In this league, against this team, you got to be able to do some difficult things. We weren't doing it at first. We started to do it, and turned out well for us.
Nick Friedel.
You guys have all talked about the culture and what it's meant to the group. Do you think that kind of culture can be taught over time when you come to a team, or do you think the kind of mental toughness that you guys have has to come from within each individual guy?
I think Coach Inspo do a good job of picking those guys, so they already got it. Somehow, some way, they already know the guys that are going to fit in here. And to tell you the truth, to fit in here, you just gotta care about winning. That's the number one.
Celtics looking sharp here in the first half. The Miami Heat have regained the lead after trailing by 17. Dragic a three-pointer. Bang! Tatum goes in a corner. Won't go. The chip misses. The Miami Heat take a 2-0 lead here in this best-of-7 conference final.
Well, things definitely got heated last night. Miami going up 2-0 over the Celtics, 106-101, after Boston blew a second straight second-half lead, getting outscored by 20 in the third. And then there was after the game. Tensions really spilled over. ESPN's Malika Andrews reported that Marcus Smart was yelling at his teammates in the locker room before storming out, swearing, and then she heard sounds of things being thrown around and other players shouting as well. So things really seem to be reaching a new level of tense within the Celtics organization. Kendrick Perkins here with us now, former Celtic champion. Guys, look, there's a lot going on here. Other members of the team, they did downplay what happened in the locker room after the game, but Celtics, they're too. So Stephen A., do you think this series is over at this point?
I do believe it's over because I picked the Miami Heat to win in 7, and I don't see Boston winning 4 of the next 5 games. I just don't view it that way. So as a result, I do believe this series is over. I don't know how many games it'll end in. Maybe it'll end in 6. Maybe it'll end in 5 for all we know, or go 7. But I don't see the Miami Heat losing, 4 of the next 5 games. I just don't see that. That's number one. Number two, to put on my reporting hat, let me just tell y'all what I heard. In the aftermath of the game, Marcus Smart got into it. He was going off on the team, and Jaylen Brown stepped up and told him to calm down. We all a team. Let's come together, et cetera, et cetera. And they ultimately got into it. It was really about Marcus Smart and Jaylen Brown to some degree getting into a heated discussion. Jaylen Brown more so trying to calm him down and Marcus Smart going the hell off. He didn't like the fact that he was called out for taking an ill-advised three when Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown were both shooting field, or in Jason Tatum's case, shoot 50% from the field. Jaylen Brown from the field and 50% from three-point range. Yet this Marcus Smart, who has been making threes, who made a couple last night, took an ill-advised three, and some folks had to talk to him about that. He didn't appreciate that as well from what I heard. But in the end, it's something that ultimately will blow over. That kind of stuff happens. Marcus Smart is highly competitive. He's a rough rider. I think he's been playing exceptionally well. And as far as I'm concerned, before last night was the MVP of the Boston Celtics in these playoffs, considering the level of consistency, the way he plays defense, and more importantly, him hitting three-point shots with regularity in a way that he never has throughout his career. So I give him a lot of credit. And I think that, obviously they'll come together because they got a lot of respect and love for one another. But that's what happened last night. In the end, the Heat, they've got their own rough riders. And somebody, we keep talking about Jimmy Butler, which we should. We keep talking about Bam Adebayo, who had 21 and 10 last night, which we should. Duncan Robinson, he is one of them. In terms of his shooting ability, this brother pulls up from the parking lot. Last night, 6 of his 12 threes. All 18 of his points came on three-pointers. That's what he's there for. He pulls up, and this brother he's a marksman, okay? And last but not least, is somebody going to mention Goran Dragic? He had 29 in game one. He had 25 last night. This guy that's one of the older dudes on the Miami Heat squad is giving it to the Boston Celtics in these first two games. We saw Kemba Walker raise up and do a little something more offensively compared to what he had been doing over the previous 5 games in postseason competition. But Goran Dragic has been balling. He has been giving it to them. And unless somebody figures out a way to stop him, Miami, who overcame a 14-point deficit to win game 1, a 17-point deficit to win game 2. Listen, I don't know how you're going to beat them if this dude keeps giving it to them the way he's been giving it to them. That's why I think this series is over.
I agree with what you pointed out about the Heat. Duncan Robinson, not all three-point shooters are created equal. This dude is not just a three-point specialist. He's a three-point specialist. That's a big thing for the Heat team to have. I want to address, I don't think the series is over. At this point, I'm taking the Heat because I started out thinking Boston would win. Like, this is a toss-up series. Boston will win it in 7 because of the shooting and the defense. Not that Miami can't shoot or play defense, but I like Boston in 7. I thought Gordon Hayward would be available, and given how their talent is distributed at the top of that team, they have 4 real big guns, and then Marcus Smart also when it matters. You take one of those pieces off, since none of the others are exactly MVP caliber, unless Tatum continues to develop into that throughout these playoffs, which is possible. But none of the other guys are someone you look at and say, that's an MVP, including Kemba Walker or Jaylen Brown, who are really good. You need to be at full strength. They weren't with Gordon Hayward for games 1 or 2. That said, they lost those 2 games. And they could maybe stolen either one of those games, right? At least made it 1-1. Down 0-2 now, I like Miami. But that's not the same thing as saying the series is over. We just saw in these playoffs, Boston jump out to a commanding lead against the Raptors. The Raptors up again. The Raptors tied up. They had to go to a game 7. We saw that the Nuggets, that it's the bubble, man. Like, weird things are happening. Go down 3-1 to Utah. That series is over. Come all the way down on Utah. And then what they just did to the Clippers, right? So I can't say, it's unlikely that the Celtics come back from this, but they are getting Hayward back. At some point they should. And so I can't say it's over, but I want to address Marcus Smart real quick. I cut guys like Marcus Smart a lot of slack when they get upset, even when sometimes they're not totally in the right. Because Marcus Smart is talented, but there are more talented guys than him. But his level of competitiveness, when it really matters, makes him exactly the guy you want on your team. Much like Jimmy Butler. Jimmy Butler's a talented player, but there are dudes more talented than Jimmy Butler. But his level of competitiveness, like a lot of players, he needs it. It's a little different. Marcus Smart is like that, so I don't see him blowing up, even going at it with Jaylen Brown. I feel like, the team's imploding. It may just...
Well, I see this series being over. I don't see it going past 6. Now, to Marcus Smart, to Stephen A., to your point about him getting into it in the locker room and him blowing up and, guys talking about him taking the ill-advised 3 in the 4th quarter. Well, they worrying about the wrong things. The Celtics should be worrying about how they losing their identity on the defensive end because the Miami Heat is having it their way in the paint from the 3, from the mid-range. They're getting whatever they want. I started to change Bam name to Bam O'Neal because he was just dunking everything in the paint. These are the playoffs. He was hanging and swinging from the rim, snatching the screws out of it. Where's the interior defense? Marcus Smart had the right to go off because Marcus Smart, the whole game, he's guarding Jimmy Butler. Jimmy Butler is quiet. He switched on to going Dragic. All of a sudden, Jimmy Butler started going off. Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, where are you guys? The defensive end, Kemba Walker, where are you at? The Miami Heat are picking on you right now. They are picking on you. They're running you up and picking rolls and trying to get you to switch out so they can create a mismatch. And by the way, people keep saying that Boston has the better team. And I don't believe that. I strongly believe that the Miami Heat have the better team, along with the better coach. Eric Spoelstra is the best coach in the bubble right now. The things that he is throwing out there, mixing it up, throwing out zones and putting the bigs in the front of the zones and the guards and the wings at the back of the zone and mixing it up, going man-to-man to boxing ones and his play calling. He is out-coaching Brad Stevens right now in this series. And then you go down the line, like you said, Stephen A., Goran Dragic. Not only has he been playing well in this series, he's been playing well the entire playoffs.